我们现在下一个讲者呢是关于印度教的灵修Stephen Matthew， 那他就刚刚很客气问说他是不是唯一用英文演讲的，我就说不要担心，我们对香港的听众是有信心的。Our next speaker, Stephen Matthews, is from the Eastcom, Hong Kong, and he is from Australia and has lived in India for 12 years. Training in the school of Asharam School, and he graduated from the master program in anthropology, CUHK, in 2016, and he currently is a full-time RA at the Department of the Cultural and Religious Study. Let's welcome Mr. Matthews.
So thank you, everybody. I don't have a PPT. I thought I would be different. And I also thought I would be different by standing here instead of standing there. And I'm speaking English, which is also different. So we're going to be speaking a little bit about Hinduism today and about a particular practice within Hinduism. Anyone who has been to India will know that India is more or less many countries in one country. Actually, it is many countries within one country. From the north to the south, east and the west, it's all very, very different. So the religious tradition of India, known as Hinduism, is also very, very different. There's a lot of variety, a lot of diversity, a lot of color. So it's very difficult, as even Shreyu mentioned before, to define Buddhism, for example. He said, it's a very difficult thing to do. So in a similar sense, to define Hinduism is a very difficult thing to do, particularly because of the diversity within it. And what's interesting is the word Hinduism is not even from India. It's not within the teachings or the scriptures of India. It was used by people outside of India to describe people within India. But anyway, there's a lot of diversity within Hinduism. Probably most people, when you think of Hinduism, probably the first thing you think of have so many gods and goddesses. Would that be correct? When you think of India, you have so many gods and goddesses. Where does it all begin? Where does it all end? For that reason, people tend to think that Hinduism is a polytheistic religion, that people believe in many gods and goddesses. So that is one kind of Hinduism. But that's not the only kind of Hinduism. Within Hinduism, there is also a very strong monotheistic tradition within Hinduism also. So I'm not representing, nor can I represent all of the Hindu schools of thought. The school that I'm representing, or the philosophy within Hinduism that I'm representing, is a monotheistic tradition within Hinduism. And some other Hindus may take exception to that. They think, why only one? Why not everybody? It's not fair. Why is there only one God? There should be many gods. Some Hindus will speak and believe like that. But again, within the broad umbrella of the Hindu tradition, there is a very strong monotheistic tradition where there is one supreme God, head, and yes, there are many lesser gods. That is a fact. They exist within the tradition, but they're not considered to be supreme. There's one supreme Godhead. And the method, much like Christianity really, to approach that supreme Godhead is through, the Sanskrit word is Bhakti. B-H-A-K-T-I, Bhakti, which means love and devotion. Just like you and I, how does somebody get to know one another well? Through love and devotion. If we love someone and they love us, then we can get to know them well and they can get to know us well. So the same applies when we are thinking of the Supreme Godhead. So within Hinduism, there is this monotheistic tradition where there is one Supreme Godhead. In Sanskrit, because all of the teachings, most of the teachings within the old teachings anyway, are all written in Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of India, which is still spoken by some people. So in Sanskrit, the name given to God is Krishna, the Supreme Godhead. In the Bhakti movement, within Hinduism, there is one particular school of thought known as the Bhakti movement. Bhakti again is a Sanskrit word, B-H-A-K-T-I, and Bhakti means love and devotion. So in this school of thought, the practitioner, they practice to express their love and devotion to the Supreme Godhead, who within the tradition is named as Krishna. And there are other names also, but that is one of the names, one of the primary names of Krishna or Vishnu. Maybe you've heard the name of Vishnu or Lord Narayana or Rama. These are all different names of the Supreme Godhead describing his qualities and his character and his nature. So one way to express that love and devotion is through prayer, as probably within Islam and Christianity also, and Buddhism in its own way. People express their feelings to someone, to the Supreme Godhead, through prayer, through music. So that's the practice that we're going to be demonstrating later on. We have our demonstration team over there. To express one's love and devotion to the Supreme Godhead through prayer. And prayer comes in two forms. What we're going to be doing today is known as bhajan. B-H-A-J-A-N. B-H-A-J-A-N. Or also known as kirtan. Again, these are Sanskrit words. And again, both words more or less mean, in simple language, it's an expression of love and devotion to Krishna, to the Supreme Godhead, through devotional music. Traditional Hinduism was known to be quite conservative, quite ritualistic, and had a number of very abstract philosophical concepts that the average person couldn't really relate to. You've all heard of the Brahminical class within the Hindu tradition. So traditional Hinduism had that, the old traditional Hinduism had that emphasis on ritualism, on abstract philosophical concepts, on Sanskrit. Most of the teachings were all in Sanskrit, and the majority of people didn't speak Sanskrit. They spoke local dialects. So for the majority of people, even within India, a lot of this was not very relatable. So within the Bhakti movement, historically the Bhakti movement took place perhaps from 1,000 years ago to 500 years ago within the religious history of India. Various local saints and holy people began to compile prayers and devotional music in various local regional dialects. And that was a bit of a no-no in that time, because Sanskrit was considered the holy language, and all the religious ritual and so on had to go on through this language, but only the Brahmana priests, the higher caste people, spoke this language properly. So in order to, as a response to that, then various local saints all around India, they began to compile prayers of love and devotion in various local regional dialects and put it to music. It's not uncommon to find people falling asleep when there's a lecture going on, right? We all experience that. But you won't find many people falling asleep when there's some music going on. You just don't find that. Because music, one could say it's very much a universal language. People can easily relate to it. It touches the heart much more easily than an abstract philosophical discourse. And it's just good fun. So that's what the Bhakti movement within the religious history of India, it very much promoted this devotional music known as kirtan, also known as bhajan, which again is an expression of love to the Supreme Godhead through various prayers. And of course, there's a lot of variety of that kind of devotional music also, because again, within India there's a lot of variety. What There's all sorts of instruments and musical styles. You'll see one particular style, which might be, you might say, more North Indian, perhaps, added with a bit of Hong Kongese and a bit of perhaps Western influence also. But the point is the same, is that it's a very simple method, very simple practice, because we're talking of spiritual practices. It's a very simple practice of expressing one's love and devotion to the Supreme Being, to God, in a very easily relatable way. And what else does it do? Probably you have all heard of that word mantra. It's a Sanskrit word, also another Sanskrit word, mantra, M-A-N-T-R-A. So man, M-A-N, refers to the mind. Man means the mind. Tra means to free or to release. To free or release the mind from what? From its excess baggage. If we think of going on a journey, and if we have to carry a lot of bags, how pleasurable will your journey be? If you had 2 suitcases, a backpack, and then a front pack, you going to enjoy yourself? Probably not very much, because we're lugging around all this unnecessary baggage. In a similar sense, life is a journey. Particularly if one is having a religious or a spiritual life, then it's very much a journey. And if we're carrying all this excess baggage within our minds, which more or less we all do, whether it's our worries, our frustrations, our broken dreams, our unfulfilled dreams, perhaps some anger, some envy, some jealousy, these are all of the things that we carry in our mind and separate us or distance us from the divine. So the purpose of kirtan or bhajan, which is what you'll see, is that it removes, gradually it removes this baggage from the mind and from the heart. In other words, it purifies the self. And by purifying the self, the reasoning is we come closer to the divine. And of course, you all would be familiar with the term yoga. It's more than just stretching and bending backwards. But the word yoga actually has a very similar meaning to the word religion. Of course, religion comes from the Latin word. Father would be able to tell us exactly what the Latin word is. But it means to connect. Religion, in the Latin, it means to connect. To what? Connect to God, obviously. Yoga has the same meaning. The word yoga means to connect. Connect to what? Connect to God. And how do we do that? One way of doing that is through this method, practice of devotional prayer or music, bhajan or kirtan, and also by purifying the self, by purifying the consciousness, by purifying the heart, because the unclean things or the baggage that we have within us, these are the things that keep us distant from the divine. And the aim of the Bhakti yoga, we might say Bhakti yoga, the aim of the path of devotion within Hinduism, that monotheistic tradition, is to come closer to the divine, to the Supreme Person, who is a person, at least in the monotheistic tradition, he's a person. Other schools of Hinduism, of course, have a more abstract concept of the divine. But certainly in the Bhakti Yoga tradition anyway, God is very much a person that we can relate to, which is one of the aims of the practice. And again, one of the easiest ways to do that is through this method of devotional prayer and kirtan. I'm going to be different again. I'm going to finish early. 2 more minutes. So I'm done. So that's one of our main practices, which is what we're going to do now. And you're welcome to join in. It's also a method of meditation. It's also a method of meditation. So the idea is that we meditate on the sound vibration. We meditate on the sound vibration. Where are those flyers? The flyers. Ah. Oh, okay. So we're going to put the prayer or the mantra on the board. She needs the microphone. And you can follow on as much as you're able. There we go. Yeah, and it's a call and response. That the method of bhajan or kirtan is that it's a call and response. We're going to do a few. This is one of the ones we're going to do, but we're going to do a couple of others. And if you go to any Indian temple, like Wei Shan was saying in June, each month there's going to be arrangement where there's different functions in different religious temples. So in June, date's not fixed yet, but in June sometime, probably mid to late June, then there's going to be, a program in our temple there in TST where you'll be able to see this also. This can be done. Sometimes it's done sitting down. Sometimes it's done standing up. Sometimes it's done in a very meditative, peaceful manner. Sometimes it's done in a very lively sort of manner. These are all different variables in the performance of bhajan or kirtan. So they're just preparing there. Yeah, so it's a call and response. So the lead singer, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm speaking about Hinduism and there's no Indians. Two are Chinese, they're from Hong Kong, of course. Atul is from Spain and I'm from Australia. Globalization. Okay. So it's become, in Chinese they say Hindu Jiao, it's Indian religion, but it's become international, much like other religious traditions of the world. It's no longer, stuck in India, but it's all over the world. And kirtan, for those of you who practice yoga, it's not uncommon to find kirtan within many yoga schools all over the world now. It's certainly become more of a practice within the world of yoga. So here we go. We have 5 minutes. There you go.
Hello. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare。大家一齊可以唱喎，跟住唱啊！Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare。Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare。Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare。Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare。Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare। Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. 大家一齊唱啊！最後一次啊！
Thank you for your team from the East Camp. But Steve, we still have 4 minutes for question.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I want to raise my question first. So informal speaker from Buddhism and Catholic, they mentioned sometimes during the spiritual practices, music, they seldom mention, and even music is a hindrance to the spiritual practice. Hindrance.
Yes.
But you just mentioned, it seemed to me that music play a very important part. So I just, so what is the, the importance of music? And is there some practice in Indian, no music, and they oppose music? So.
Music it's not just music per se, it's the devotional music that's important. Just music by itself, I could be singing Michael Jackson, but it wouldn't do me any spiritual benefit anyway. But yes, music is very important in most traditions of Hinduism, particularly with the Bhakti movements, the devotional traditions with Hinduism. Music, prayer and music does play a very important part. Why? Because, I think we can all experience when we use music, we can really put all of our heart, within the music. It's very easy to almost transcend, our everyday situation with music, be it classical music or, even rock and roll music. People can really forget themselves and, be in another dimension even. And that's particularly the case with religious music or spiritual music. Father mentioned the Gregorian chants earlier. And it's really something that when you listen to it meditatively and deeply, it can really carry you away. So it's a very easy method to fully give your heart to and your attention, which is why it is so important. Within Hinduism, yes, there are traditions that don't do music. They are the more, you might say, abstract philosophical traditions in which the divine is not seen as a person, but rather as a force or as an energy. And in that practice, then there is meditation, maybe similar to Buddhism in that sense, but not that they're against music, but it would be considered something for less progressive people. It would be considered something to do for less progressive people. But rather, reflective knowledge and on abstract philosophical concepts and meditation, solitary meditation. So those traditions are also there, but naturally they're certainly the minority because most people can't relate to them so easily. Yes, one in the back. Last one, I guess, right?
Yes, the last question,
Fine.
Very brief question.
No worries.
Hello, it's nice to meet you. So I would like to know that you have mentioned there is a supreme God, in Hinduism. So I would like to know that's the characteristic of supreme God, and is that the song is the channel for us to connect to the supreme God, and any purpose of the creation of the world and human from the supreme God is the creator of the human or the world or the universe.
Yeah, in the concept of God, within the monotheistic traditions within Hinduism is not very different from Christianity, actually. There are certainly many similarities, and naturally some differences also. And yes, the prayer is a prayer. The prayer actually means, in many words, there's 3 words in different combinations. But the prayer itself, the one you saw on the slide, it means, my dear Lord, please engage me in your service. That's what the prayer means. So it's a prayer to God, whom we address as Krishna. You saw the name Krishna there in the mantra. The name Krishna is how we address the Supreme Godhead in the Bhakti tradition. And it's a prayer of wanting to do service. My dear Lord, please engage me in your service. And as for the creation of the world, it's a place for us to learn, ultimately. It's a place for us to learn, and ultimately within the Bhakti tradition, anyway, within this devotional traditions within Hinduism, the aim of the world is to teach us that we don't belong here, but rather we belong in the spiritual realm, heaven, if you like, with God, with Krishna. So I'm going to finish.
Thank you so much, Steve Matthews, and thank you for your member from EastCom as well, the cheerful music. And I just noticed the organizer, Department of the Cultural and Religious Study, the chairman, Professor Y. Lun Tang, it just arrived. 那个文中系系主任的就是谭伟伦教授刚刚到，很客气的坐在后面。我们在节目的最后会请他帮我们解释一下接下来的活动是什么。我刚刚知道从各位的提问，很多人都想知道会发生什么事，一定会发生，不要焦虑。